from Sonny Singh here. I'm just going to request my very good friend Neil so he can join me. Let's have a look. Hope you're all keeping well. Going to have a very interesting conversation with my friend Neil, who's a fellow life coach. And just going to wait. Oh, here he is. Right. Waiting for Neil. Right, I do believe we have Neil. Hello.
Hey, Sonny, what are you doing?
I'm fine. We've made it.
We're live.
We are live. It's a bit weird in the beginning because you have to mess around with it, a bit of jiggery pokery at the beginning to try to then set it all up. And this is my first shared Instagram live, so I'm really excited about this. And it's a great pleasure to be talking to you this morning. How are you, Neil?
Yeah, I'm all good. I'm all good. Can you hear me okay?
I can. Can I just say, I love the background, my friend. You did it. I thought to myself, well, I could just have the boring old white wall behind me. I thought I'd get a bit more interesting and just go in the front room where I normally do my coaching.
Yeah, that's all good, isn't it?
Fantastic. Right. So, Neil, do you want to begin then? Do you want to begin and just kick off? Because I think you kind of really work hard on the kind of the formatting and planning for our conversation.
Yeah, so obviously, like I said, as we discussed previous to this then, so we're looking at sort of pre-COVID, sort of like the middle and pro-COVID. So obviously we've come up with this whole concept about fear and how fear can play a massive part. And I think especially kind of like when we look at sort of everything about COVID. So like I said, so for me, when I think of like sort of pre-COVID, very, very busy, constantly on the motorway, constantly trying to hit targets. And then we've come into this lockdown and it's just presented so many opportunities, I think. And I think it's just been fantastic to kind of like get a bit grounded again. But yeah, like I said, but when we look at sort of post-COVID, I can still see that obviously there's going to be quite a lot of fear sort of attached to kind of like, what are we going to do next? Sort of how things are going to sort of transform, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And so tell me then, Neil, what was it like for you in terms of that shift, from pre-COVID? Because I want to talk about my shift as well. But if you could just share in terms of, what was it like for you pre-COVID, and then immediately when we went into lockdown, when the Prime Minister announced the very strict lockdown measures, and then how things have transpired since then. So what's that journey been like for you?
I'm not going to lie, Sonny. I think it's been fantastic.
Let's be honest. Let's be honest. Honesty, speak the truth and be the truth. That's my motto.
Well, if we're going to call this loose men, I think, as we discussed previously to this, I think it's been fantastic. But I think it comes down to mindset. And I think the important thing, I think when we look at sort of coaching on a whole, I think it all comes down to mindset, and I think for me, when Boris Johnson made that announcement that we were obviously going to be restricted, I was in a gym and we were told that by 6:30 we had to be out, and that was it. And like I think initially I walked out of the gym and I was kind of like, oh my God, like the gym's been taken away from me. What's happening here? And then we were told but you know what? Honestly, no, I've just really, really embraced it. As soon as literally the gyms wasn't allowed to be open, I've just started running. I've started doing a lot of running in the mornings, and it's just been fantastic. But again, I think it comes back to that mindset. And as I've sort of pointed out to you before, I'm a firm believer that we've got like a percentage of our brain and how it wants to work. I think that we're always conditioned to be in that 80%. And that 80% is where it wants to look after us. It wants to sort of like huddle us. But in order to sort of... Yeah, absolutely. Do you think it's quite interesting you make that distinction between the 80 and the 20? I think for me, I think that 80% sometimes, as you said, is driven by our conditioning, and maybe it's our ego just helping us to keep safe. But
but that's where it's kind of, you know, we stay in that settled state. You know, what I like to call a fixed mindset, which is not negative, but it's just the way it is. It's just our settled state. But the 20% is where the transformative power, and, you know, where I like to delve into the growth mindset, where there is that potentiality and you know, that opportunity to learn new things and discover and to truly transform, not just to learn, but go beyond learning and transform. And do you think that you've had that opportunity? I mean, I'll talk a little bit about my journey in a minute, but do you think for you, Neil, do you think it's been quite transformative from what you're saying? You're saying it's been amazing. Yeah. It's been quite, you know, an awakening.
Yeah, I think it's just sort of like awoken the kind of like the soul, I suppose, really, in terms of actually, like I said, that when you think about that 80% that we're kind of always in, and again, this is just my belief, but in order to reach that 100%, your brain's going to turn around and tell you, you can't go into that last remaining 20%. Because if you go into that, the unknown's going to present itself, and the ego's going to go, oh my God, what's going on? What's going on?
We're out of our comfort zone. That's it.
Yeah. But when you step into that 20%, everything is just released. It's released in such a way, like I said, that now you're finally sort of saying to yourself, do you know what? Now I'm ready to make those actions. Now I'm ready to make those goals sort of transpire and to become that 100%. And once you equal that 100%, everything is limitless.
Yeah, that is so interesting. If I just share with you my kind of journey, I think in many respects, even though as quite, you know, ironically, as a life coach, you want to help to transform people. But then I actually realized that I was in a bit of a fixed mindset with my pre-COVID days, where I had my routines, I had my work assignments, I had this, that, and the other. And then obviously with the lockdown, it all came to a standstill. And then there was that shock. Did you get that shock, that tipping? For me, you mentioned the gym. The actual gym was the tipping point for me, because when I said to my son, I said, I'm going to go to the gym. He said, Dad, you can't go to the gym. You're not allowed to go to the gym. But it's not closed. It's still open in Wolverhampton. But you can't go. Haven't you been hearing anything? And it wasn't until my son sat me down and then we watched Boris Johnson's first briefing from Downing Street. That's when my body sank into the sofa. Oh my God. Now we have to stockpile now. Let's get in the car. So I kind of understood why people were stockpiling. And then there was that shock. And then there was that about a week for it to kind of really register what was going on. And it was like a collective conscience, because everybody was feeling this place of what's happening, what's going on. We can't go, you know, and then, you know, the ego wants us to go back to what we gravitate towards, what we feel comfortable with, and go back to what was normal. And I soon realized after about a week, it was not going to be the old, same, but it's going to be something quite different. But I agree with you. I think I'm kind of going in that, you know, it's very interesting, Neil, you mentioned this 80-20 distinction, because I'm kind of, you know, tiptoeing into that 20%, because I've got the environment in the sense that, you know, with the lockdown and obviously following all the government guidelines on just socially distancing and just staying at home, keeping safe, keeping everybody else safe. And then that's given me a really, really good insight into myself, in terms of what is possible within me, what I can possibly do, or how I can help people, reach out to them. And all these things are coming up, all these new ideas that I'm now looking into, creating, developing. For example, you know, networking with your very good self in terms of trying to, you know, look at this, you know, our first Loose Men show, whatever you call it. Say it like it is. Yes, we could do it too. So I'm kind of in that, getting in that little bit, in that 20%, Neil, I reckon.
Yeah, but if you think about it, like I said, though, isn't it? Like you said, and the thing is with it, is because you're sort of exploring yourself and you're exploring these opportunities, I think you've now reached that 100%, because now you're in the zone, and now you're seeing, actually, do you know what? Now I can actually maybe have that time to gravitate towards that. Maybe now I've got that time to actually explore new angles. Whereas, I think when you look at it in terms of, say, like for instance, if you were thinking about buying a car today on finance, your mind's instantly going to turn around and tell you, do you know what, is that really a good idea? You know, can I actually afford it? You know, what about my mortgage? What about if I lose my job? You know, it's all these little things. But I think even if you just sort of put it in terms of a car, if you put it in terms of even buying a house, if you put it in terms of anything like that, it's always going to sort of want to kick in and turn around and say, you cannot do that. Or if you do that, what are we going to do?
Yeah.
But then at the moment you take that gamble on yourself and you step into that 20%, you're going to maybe have 3 or 4 days where you're still going to be sort of giving yourself a bit of a hard time. Have I done the right thing? Have I done the right thing? But eventually your emotions will just come down, because it's just fear. It's just fear, and that is all it is. But then when you get to that 100% and say, for instance, something happens that's positive, then you get that snap. Whoop, I'm in. I'm ready. I'm in that zone now. I'm in that 100%, and everything is just going to happen. And the thing is with fear is, I think sometimes when you think about it as well, it all comes back down to, and I think especially like with COVID right now, is you need to gravitate towards the right people. You need to have that time run around and actually be around the right people, the right environment, to make everything continually keep growing in that 100% bubble.
Yeah. Do you think that it's almost like we've been put through some kind, you know, we've all been forced to go into this washing machine, or all of our stuff or everything in a washing machine, and it's kind of saying, well, you need to get your laundry clean now, you know, which basically, I mean, I'm using metaphors here, but it's almost like now is the time to clean your laundry, to process things clearly. You know, you haven't got work to distract you. You haven't got this happening, that happening. You know, we're all in this environment where there is time to relax and reflect. And sometimes, you know, it can be quite a hard thing when suddenly the washing is dumped in the amygdala part of the brain, saying, hey, that's it now, wash it all now. And it can be quite a frightening thing, but it's also a great thing to do if you just, like you said, you know, find time for yourself, talk to trusted people, you know, share things, you know, that's half the battle, trying to find people to be able to trust and to be able to share things with. And I'm just thinking what you were saying there about, you know, I think our NLP training comes to mind in terms of VACOG, you know, the VACOG, the visual, auditory, kinesthetic, olfactory, gustatory kind of, you know, modalities, you know, where, you know, how we choose to perceive information, how we process it through our language. So I'm just wondering whether could that help us with handling fear, do you think? For example, maybe visually, you know, because the thing about fear, it's in the future, isn't it? It's kind of, it's that anxiety about the future. So I'm just wondering, should we be countering it with something visual, like, well, just you know, imagine when we come out of lockdown, we'll be able to walk freely in the street, we'll have to go to shops, you know, imagine. So do you think we could be using the VACOG to counteract the fear of the future?
I think so.
Do you think that might be a way forward? What do you think, Neil?
Yeah, I think so as well. I think again, when you look at it quite simplistically, like I said, so obviously in terms of sort of training and sort of like the way that we kind of like promote ourselves in terms of professionalism in our trade, yeah, like you said, you've got your VACOG, you've got like anchors, there's different techniques that we can use in terms of clients. But I think when it comes back down to just generalistic and sort of like looking at things, look at it quite simplistic, you know, and that is actually, do you know what? Give yourself a goal, you know, give yourself that time to actually visualize, or actually say to yourself, do you know what? This is what I want to achieve from the lockdown, or this is what I would hope to try and get from it, you know. And then I think, again, you incorporate skills.
That's a really good point. Yeah. I
think it's like I said before, I think with life, you've got to have a game plan. You know, it's all very well saying, do you know what, I want to achieve this, I want to achieve that, but you've got to have that game plan. And I think right now, during COVID, I think it's quite easy to kind of go inward. But I think if you actually allow that bubble just to expand and keep on expanding, it's going to give you that opportunity to see that actually, do you know what, I've got a purpose, and I can actually find that purpose by getting over that fear bubble.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you think also, if we focus, I mean, a great point about having a goal, I think that goal gives you a vision. And I think we all need to ask ourselves, isn't it, quite frankly, you know, when this is over and the trajectory now with the slight easing of the restrictions, and then, you know, everything's being monitored and checked and everything, But then we are going to get to a point at some point where it is going to end, and then we're going to be having this new life, or whatever it's going to, or new normal, however we want to look at it. And we have to ask ourselves the question, well, while we were at home for 3, 4, 5 months, what did we do? What did I achieve? And if we've got this time left, that's a really good time, do you think, Neil, to start setting goals now, even if people haven't, to start setting them now?
Yeah, I think honestly, I can't say it enough. I have loved lockdown.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, I'm very much goal orientated, and I just can't stress that enough. And I think anybody has the potential to actually take a step back and actually just relook at things. If something hasn't gone right, I mean, I can remember you saying the other day that there was a friend of yours that's having a bit of a difficult time in terms of work. But the thing is, how I would approach that in terms of just generally having a conversation with somebody is, well, you've got an opportunity. You know, well, okay, well, what's that? You know, are you actually enjoying your job? And if that person turned around and said to me, well, no, I absolutely detest my 9-to-5 life. Well, now you've got an opportunity. You know, set yourself that goal, set yourself that milestone to actually use this time to invest in you. Because ultimately, the person that can transpire or make these goals is you, me, anybody even watching here. You know, like I said, if you're going to set something, it's only you that can follow it through.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, by setting that goal, it can be quite exciting, and you can always get it validated by other people. Do you think this is reasonable? And I know we can use analogies like, you know, setting SMART targets must be specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, time bound. But as long as it works for you, as long as it's a gut, and also if you listen to that 20% as well, you mentioned that very powerful 20%. For me, it's the intuition. And sometimes the intuition speaks, it whispers. Sometimes I get a whisper, someone's name or the name of some or place, and then I have to take notice of it. And it's a very powerful intervention. It's a divine spiritual intervention for me, that I have to do something. And what was quite interesting was that you mentioned my friend that I talked about. Unfortunately, you know, very bad situation, being furloughed, company could be closed down, etc. Lots of anxieties. He got a young family. At the end of the day, you know, his name just whispered in my ear in the morning, and then, right, something's not right then. I need to do something. Later on, I ring him, and then I said, well, why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you tell me? It's been 10 days of stress. I said, you talking to a life coach here, I could have given that many therapies to you. You would have been fine. Well, you have a good natural laugh, don't you? But, you know, like, you're right, though. You know, do you think that this is the time to evaluate? You know, this is the time to just lay everything out, what's not worked, be honest about it, and then try to think, well, what could work? What does feel better? Let's tap into that 20. I know we've got the age to look after us. It's always going to be there. But let's look at the potentiality and things that we never realized we could do. I mean, the last 8 months, I can't believe how digitized I've become by starting an online presence with my life coaching business. I can't believe how much, you know, I've jumped leaps and bounds, you know, and it's, if I can do it, anybody can. But what do you think, Neil, about that?
I think the most important thing is, like you said, you know, like the points you're making there, and I think again it comes back to the fact you've got to nurture yourself, haven't you? And I think right now it's giving yourself the opportunity. It's almost like you're going on a holiday. You know, you booked a 2-week holiday.
I wish. I wish.
You're going to put your feet up on the beach, but you're just going to relax. And I think, like I said, again, I can only speak from my own experience, and I'd imagine that there would be plenty more people out there that would see the opportunities, but it's about nurturing you. And I think the most important thing is that right now, if you're going to be nurturing you, will nurture your dreams. Because I believe
that's part of goal setting, isn't it? Dreams. You mentioned dreams there. I like that.
And I think the thing is that something else that I believe is that I think the two greatest things that we're given in life is the fact of when you're born, and then the second thing that's most important is actually figuring out what it is that you're here to do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What is your purpose?
Yeah, exactly. What is your purpose? And I think
now's the time to find out if you don't know already.
Honestly,
that's exciting. That's very powerful, Neil. That's really powerful.
I think for myself, and I don't know about you, but I only really started to really discover my purpose in my early 30s. You know, but now that I'm in my early 40s, I know who it is I'm supposed to be. If you'd have asked me that question maybe 10 or 12 years ago, I would have felt quite arrogant to turn around and say that. But again, I think everybody on this planet is being given a gift. And it's about finding that to then nurture it, to then transpire into your dreams.
Absolutely. And that's amazing what you just said there. You said about in your early 30s, because I think for me it was more like a midlife thing in my mid 40s that I more or less kind of found out what my true purpose, you know, is meant to be, you know, why I'm on this planet, you know, why was I put on this earth, and what the purpose is. Yeah. And for me, quite simply, it's to help, you know, use my skills, use my knowledge, expertise, life experience to potentially help to transform people's lives, to help them to learn, heal and grow and transform, and to be their best versions. I know, you know, I would never, Neil, have been able to say that to you 5-6 years ago. Trust me. And I think it's brilliant that you've been able to find it a lot earlier than I have. Your post, but it doesn't. I suppose it doesn't make a difference. It's all about now. No. You know, it's all about the power of now. I'm talking about Eckhart Tolle, one of my heroes. You know, it really is. And that's another way to counter the fear as well, because fear is that future thought about what if it's going to be like this, isn't it? You're asking yourself these tag questions that they're completely misplaced. It's all about here and now. Like, for example, here and now, I'm enjoying having a great time talking to my fellow colleague and friend. You know, we're just talking about things that are relevant to both of us and probably a lot of people out there at the moment. So it is about the now. And sometimes if you think about now, just think of how many moments you've got waiting for you to create magic, to transform things. Magic. There you go. Magic. And to divert your thinking. You know, sometimes our thoughts condition us to think like this is how you're meant to think, where really it's, you know, you're able to change that. It takes time. It takes work.
Still hear you, and we're just getting some questions. Sorry if I'm turning my head to the screen. The best version. So we've got someone else. So how do we?
I have no idea. People could just link in and chat. What are they saying, Neil? I can't read because I'm short-sighted.
We've got the why practice. Best version. Yes. Yeah. Well, that's it. That's it.
Oh,
the best version.
Well,
the best version. Yeah.
Yes.
The best version.
Yeah, welcome.
And again, I think the thing is with it is when you come back to like being that best version, is everybody has that gift, but it's all about stepping into that fear. You've got to own it. You've got to own it. You've got to control it. You've got to welcome that fear. There you go. You have to welcome the fear. You have to welcome it into your life.
You have to. Exactly. I totally agree. And you know what, Neil? Sometimes when we are in the fear, when we are in a fearful state, it can feel horrible. Sometimes your head feels being crushed, or you feel very nauseous or anxious. But trust me, it's a bit like bitter medicine. You know, you've got to sit in it. You've got to stew in those unpleasant feelings to be able to work out what is happening, what's going on, for then you to negotiate yourself through it. It's almost like being in a jungle, the dark jungle, and you can't see anything, but you can hear lots of things going on. But you just have to find the path, just negotiate and never stop, isn't it? Just keep going. Even though if you can't do big steps, do toe by toe steps, just slightly, just move forward. And honestly, and it builds momentum, and momentum builds action. Then action will lead to results. But it all starts with the thoughts and momentum and configuring things out and working through it. It's very, very hard, but it can be done. And sometimes with support, or you can do it yourself.
I think as well, like so, as you're making that point there, and it's what I said to you before, is that when you think about that the bamboo tree, and you imagine somebody that's decided one day, one day I'm going to go into my garden, I'm going to plant a bamboo tree. But ultimately, what it comes down to is the fact it's going to take years and years and years before that bamboo tree grows. But so you imagine that person is out there every day thinking, oh my God, I've been watering it. My water bills are sky high. I'm constantly putting
shouldn't have gone to rates there. I shouldn't have gone to the water rates.
That's it. But it's not growing. then after about 6 years, I believe it shoots by about 6 feet or something like that, something ridiculous. But what's that telling you about life? You know, is that if you imagine that person, if he allowed that fear to control him, he would never have seen the end result. And I think it's like anything, when you look at people in terms of whether they're having any sort of problems with anxiety, if they're feeling low in mood or anything like that, if you don't control that fear, it will own you, just like that bamboo tree. But if you allow yourself to step into it and actually say, do you know what? Actually, do you know what? I'm going to put my hand up to life and say, do you know what? It's going to be hard, but do you know what? I'm prepared to go through that battle. You will then see the result. It might take you 2 years, it might take you 3 years, depending on what you're wanting to do, whether you want to try and start a business, whether you're trying to do anything. But if you step into it, you'll see the end results.
And also, I find that, you know, what kind of helped me negotiate with some of my fears in the past is sometimes you've got to be still. Now, if you're a fast, dynamic mover and shaker, and you just never have 5 minutes to yourself, well, it is a time, particularly during this lockdown period, where you know, where we're all home based, we can easily, quite quickly get into that state. And I find, Neil, that meditation helps. Now, I never used meditation at all, but about seven years ago, when I went to some mindfulness meditation classes, and just sitting there with other like-minded people, just trying to negotiate the busyness of life and how hectic it can be and stressful, that I just found going into that zone and in a kind of a meditative state, you know, with some light music in the background or no music, but just being still. There are lots of really, really interesting meditation videos on YouTube you can just listen to. And I find that normally, and then if you go through a guided meditation or someone's guiding you through it, they can actually take you to that place where you're just feeling the fear. And then, you know, like with whatever modalities that are, you know, that people work with, then do they see it? Do they hear it? Do they smell it? Do they feel it? You know, and then to work with that, and then to try to reduce it or just let it move away. Just work with it, because I mean, you can use something that you're probably familiar with as well, something called NLP submodality shift, which is a therapeutic technique to try to reduce it. But then you don't have to go into that level. You can just be in that meditative state. Be still, start imagining, start feeling the fear. Remember, the fear is not a physical thing. It's not out there to get you. It's in your mind. So if you control it in your mind, in a meditative state, it can really, really help.
I think honestly, I think it's, and I think the thing is with it is when you think about right now in terms of sort of everything that's happening, I think it's going to always be constant. It's always going to be one. But I think again, and this is where it comes back to being quite simplistic in my approach, is that if you can understand that fear is not a bad thing, you can nurture fear. You can nurture everything. You can nurture everything about your mind, as long as you're aware. And I think that leads me on to something else that I was just going to sort of say. I'm trying to figure out how we actually, I don't know how we actually replied back to some of these comments, Sonny. But there's someone here. Yeah.
Well, I think I think, Neil, on our behalf, we want to thank people who are tuning in and viewing. It's just, we're so sorry we're not able. This is the first time that we're using Instagram Live, so we appreciate we getting comments. I hope we can pull them up sometime and address them in another video or something. But yes, so thank you for tuning in, everybody. So that's amazing. We'll have a look. But I think I can just see from why practice consistency is the key, and I have most people need help with motivation, even me. That's a really good point. And you know, it is, you know, the thing about motivation, I did a podcast on it a few months ago, and you know, we all get in a rut. We all, you know, me too, you know, we're all human, it happens. And where you just feel that you don't really have any energy or inkling or motivation, anything to do anything. But you know what helps me, Neil, in that situation is I just take tiny steps. Tiny little steps, just momentum. Even if it means I just go to the bathroom to brush my teeth, that requires momentum. Then that builds into something else, then something else. Then you move, and then you connect with your computer. Then you connect with the piece of paper. Then you pick up the phone, and then you start getting dressed, and then you start doing whatever you have to do. So it all, for me, starts with momentum, and then you can then start to see things moving and shifting. And I also think, you know, I believe that, you know, the last few years, I've really developed my emotional intelligence, because there are about 8 different intelligences according to Howard Gardner, and one of them is emotional intelligence. And I believe that, you know, we all have the capacity to start feeling things more, and try to really make the, you know, try to understand how we're feeling, and then use that to make good choices rather than, you know, the sort of negative ones. But absolutely.
For me, like, listening to what you're saying there, for me, it's very much like an anchor. And I was doing this the other day, and it's like, if I feel myself going somewhere, I'm just literally stop, and I just click, and I'm just constantly stop. I don't want to hear no negative chat today. Stop. And it's, to me, it's just an anchor. You know, I'm using an anchor.
Did you use it as an anchor? So what's your anchor then to change the states? The click. All right. Very good. Very good.
Sometimes I feel a bit like John Travolta. I'm ready to get up and do my dancing. It's just
let's just click those fingers. That's a really good anchor, actually, because, you know, the actual we've had another divine intervention by Mark, our trainer. Hello, Mark. Mark's tuning in. He said we can scroll on the screen. Okay. Oh yeah, we can. Thank you, Mark. And also, where are we based? Okay, then, Neil, where are you based, my friend?
I'm in Dorset. I'm in sunny Dorset in the UK.
Lovely, lovely. And from myself, greetings from sunny Wolverhampton in the West Midlands. And actually, Sonny is my nickname. My real name is Sunil, but people call me Sonny.
Yeah.
Positivity personified. That's me. Right. So fantastic. So that's our location. Thank you very much, Mark, for that question, and thank you for giving us a little bit of training there on how to use this live. So right. Can you just go back to what you said before? That piece of anchoring. Okay.
So like, for me, mine is very much like a snap of the fingers. You know, I've trained myself just to snap. So if I hear that noise, it's like, oh, I've got to stop. I've got to stop fretting. I've got to stop fretting. You know, it's time to respond and not react. And that's something else that's an interesting sort of.
Really good point. Really good. Yeah.
I think right now during COVID, I think everybody needs to appreciate the difference between reacting and responding. And I think it's here to respond. You don't want to go through life and be like a thermometer. You want to be like a thermostat. You want to respond to the temperature or what you're being asked. Really good.
I love that. That's amazing. That's really good, because I think, you know, when we react, we're kind of using previous programs, aren't we? The conditioning. Well, this is how I've always dealt with it, and this is how I'm going to deal with it now. And you're not really reading all the signs and the cues, really. And that's where responding, where you are taking a bit of a step back sometimes, and just listening and observing and responding and thinking it through, and then checking in with your emotions, and then making the right choices, rather than going, oh no, this is how, you know, if someone spoke to me like that or did this is how I'm going to do it. And it doesn't always work. That's a really powerful point, Neil. Thank you for raising that. It is about responding, just thinking, because that requires thinking rather than just going back in the program and just shooting it out.
No, I think, like I said, and again, and I think when you look at everything we're talking about here today in terms of the concept of fear, all of these little things here that we've just been discussing, it can all help you to work through that fear. You know, and like I said, and I think as long as you're prepared to walk through that journey, and then you're going to get to a place where you can look behind and actually say, do you know what? I've achieved what I needed to achieve. Or, do you know what? I've got myself to a place now where actually I've realized I want to release more about me. Because ultimately, like I said to you before, is that everybody, you know, including anybody that's watching this right now, we've all been given a gift. It's not arrogant to turn around day to life that, you know what? I actually know who I am. I actually know who I want to be. And if you're in a situation where possibly you are feeling a bit lost or you are feeling a bit unsure about yourself, I think when we look at coaching, in terms of coaching, it's not a bad thing, like I said, to work with somebody that's actually going to help us release that potential. I'm just going to have to play around on my phone.
Absolutely. Yeah. You're all good. Fantastic. Great stuff. No, I think it is important that, and I mean, we're coaches, but we can probably think back in our lives where people, oh, sorry, Neil, I think we've lost you there, mate. Oh, there you are. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm back. I'm having to
We've
play
got
around with
you.
my phone.
Yeah. That's a great backdrop, I need to do something similar. My son was talking about Dad, get a green screen, get a green screen. So I don't know what that is. So I'll have to learn, have to find out. But yeah, you're right. Do you also gifts? It's interesting. I know that we're living through a time which is very, very challenging, worldwide. It really is a challenging time. And we all have to be very, very mindful and just keep safe, to help everybody, to help each other, to help ourselves. And I was inspired to write a very short blog on my website yesterday about some of the positives of COVID-19. And now it's a dreadful disease. But the actual, what's happened has just hit everybody for 6, 12, 18, however which you want to look at it. There's been a massive, massive impact. And sometimes when that happened, that there is an opportunity to look at what are the unintentional kind of benefits, what is it that we can actually get from this, which will help us all of us in the future, with a collective conscience, how we can walk this planet together, to make it a better world. And only we can make it a better world. It's the people. And I believe that we've been presented, but also I know we've been given a disease, but within that, unwittingly, there's also potential gifts, because we can start thinking of doing things differently and how we can improve the environment and use less transport, or start thinking of alternatives and choices. Because, you mentioned change as well. For me, I'm thinking, I'm just thinking about this off the top of my head. I think constant change is going to be the constant. Constant change, constant being the adjective, coming into the noun. Constant change is the constant. So if we can, and then if we have that as part of the way we start thinking about things and moving forward, then we can see gifts everywhere. We can see the potential. The path is laid full of gifts, and we never thought about this because our mind is more clearer now, and we've had more rest. We can start thinking about things differently. Our mindsets are slightly shifting. I didn't think about that, and the gift is actually in my house, or it's out here, or in somebody else, or in me. But try to find the gifts. That's a really good exercise to do. What are the gifts that you've been given as a result? Even though we are dealing with a universal pandemic, which is just terrible on the one hand, but there's opportunity on the other as well.
Yeah, and again, I think it just comes back to that. I think everything that you're saying there, it comes back down to the fact of like who we are as people. At the end of the day, we have all got different perceptions of how we see things and how we see our own world. But I think ultimately one thing that we can see is that you can work on opportunities. And I think if you, like you said, if you can wake up in the morning and just take 5 minutes to actually look at your garden and actually think, I'm very blessed that I've got a garden. Because some people may not have a garden, or if you're living in a flat, maybe you're very fortunate because you're actually in a quiet area. Some people live in a council estate, in terms of sort of like where there's many flats. You see what I mean? And I think again, it just comes back down to sort of being very, very simplistic to sort of how you approach things and how you see things. And again, it just comes back down to being very, very, obviously being very, very grateful.
So powerful, isn't it? I want to give you some contextual examples in the spirit of this Loose Men program. Honestly, things just come to me like divine inspiration. So, you mentioned anchor. So for me, what's happened to me, my anchor sometimes is my nice little cap that I wear. And it's from Cordy Island. Cordy Island is a magical spiritual place right at the tip of Tenby. I went there with my kids last year. It was amazing. I just wear that cap and it just takes me there, just a place of calm and serenity. But then it was quite interesting. I was wearing the cap outside and I went in my garden. And then there was a realization that, oh God, can't go holiday this year. I had a fantastic holiday in South Wales last year. Can't go holiday again, because of what's happening, And then I thought, well, hang on a minute. Why don't I tap into my back og? And because I've got this this private garden that I built 3 years ago. Just, it's all been laid out, slabs and fencing, and it was just like, it was completely a, you know, a wreck, a jungle, a disused area about 4 years ago. But got it all cleared and shifted, landscaped it all 3 years ago, just left it blank. And I thought, wouldn't it be great to have a little inflatable hot tub in there, or a, you know, or maybe imagine you know, like a projector screen, and you know, like I would normally if I go somewhere, you know, watching football or something, and then you got the screen outside having a drink, you know, visualizing that lovely time, a surreal time, or having a little barbecue. And then suddenly, honestly, Neil, I'm not joking with you, I just saw a mini resort in the back of my garden just by wearing my hat.
Wow.
And then now what I'm going to do, as per the tiger dad that I am, I'm going to get my 2 kids to do a little summer project and do a little inventory, a listing of all the things that I need to get that resort, make it a reality. because we're not going to get a holiday on the outside. You know, unfortunately, you know, people are now, they've booked like magnificent cruises. They can't go there, and they're struggling to get cancellation, their refunds back because they've paid third parties and blah, blah, blah. Horrendous time. And I'm thinking, well, you know, I'm stuck. You know, I can't even just go trekking or anything or whatever at the moment until things are lifted. So why not make a holiday to a resort into my garden? I mean, what is going on there, Neil? Can you unpick that for me, please, my friend? Just by putting the anchor on.
I think again, though, isn't it? I think listening to what you're saying, though, isn't it? Is that you just come to that realization that actually, do you know what? Actually, everything that you had prior to COVID, it's an extension of your life. It's an extension of what you think in terms of maybe what it is that you need. You know, and again, like I said, you know, where does that come from? And I think that's just
still the same. Yeah.
And I think, and I think the difference is like now is giving you an opportunity to sort of come back to actually to what is around you, you know, and rather than actually sort of making that extension about what it is that you think that you need or what you should be doing. Society has told us all that we cannot do this, we cannot do that. So what's happening is people, we're evolving. You know, we're evolving to the change.
It is. And, you know, but that in itself can cause a bit of fear that are we allowed to change? Are we allowed to evolve? Are we allowed to do that? So I'm asking these rhetorical questions, but if you look at them as direct questions, we can, can't we? We can change. We just start here and now. We just start here, isn't it?
Exactly, and I think again, anybody that's sort of listening or anybody that does sort of come into this at a later point today, I think they should just see that message that we're trying to convey to people, and is that step into the fear. You know, don't let fear control us. Don't let anything control us. I think one thing that I would like to say is that the media is a powerful weapon, but it's negative. But it's negative. So. It's a negative tool. You know, maybe spend some time, like I said, that if you are having sort of times where you're feeling a bit lethargic, you know, start reading, you know, start thinking about, I think, what it is that you actually used to enjoy maybe as a child. Did you like drawing? You know, get back in touch
reconnect with those.
And I think these little tips that we're giving it's detrimental to our own well-being. You know, like I said, and it's just simple tools that any of us can use at home, and that is just that. Don't allow that fear to control us. You know, allow yourself to actually step into that fear and start owning that fear.
Yeah. And that's always good. You know, where, you know, sometimes we can get quite nostalgic, and sometimes for the wrong reasons, and we regret, and sometimes it's regret. And I think that sometimes when we go back to the more positive things, things that we like doing, didn't have time to do because life got busy, you know, with everything. And but now is the time to do, like you said, drawing, reading. You want to start your own business. You want to develop a website. I mean, there's opportunities to do online courses, read ebooks, write them. There's so many things out there that really, there's so many opportunities that it's all about just allowing yourself the permission to think that it's possible.
Exactly.
But if we allow our conditioning to say, oh, so-and-so didn't do it, so why do I need to do it? Or I'm not allowed to do that, am I? Well, as long as it's not illegal and you're not going to hurt anybody, I don't see the issue, really. As long as you've thought about it and you allow yourself the permission, allowing it is a big hurdle for lots of people.
Yeah, and I think again, like I said, when you come back to sort of like sort of people in general that are sort of doing things with their businesses, colleges, and anybody, everyone's evolving. Everybody's now sort of seeing the opportunities of technology. Whereas sometimes before maybe it was always deemed that that you should be going to see people face to face. But like I said, but again, the situation, I think 2-3 weeks ago when we were actually on a full lockdown, people are now utilizing technology. They're giving themselves the permission to use things that actually we may not have used. It's
a big change. I mean, one of the areas, I mean, I mentioned at the beginning, of this chat that, I was very busy. I mean, my main career is working as an educational consultant trainer. So I would do all your cut and thrust training of teachers up and down the country. So lots of traveling, going to schools and colleges, teaching at universities, etc. And I really enjoyed that, the cut and thrust of live delivery. And that was also part of the change that I just couldn't get over, the fact that all that's finished now for the time being until things get back to some kind of normality, big inverted commas. But one of the things that I've had to take on board and people I normally work with is the fact that the delivery can still happen, but it has to be done online. So it's not the same, but it's almost near enough. The same kind of level of authenticity and impact that you normally have as a trainer. You can give that out, but through a screen, using Zoom or GoToMeeting. So, and that's a massive transformative change, not just for me, but as a trainer, but also for the schools and colleges and for their staff to, I mean, I'm going to be running a training course for prison educators in the next week or so, and they've never been trained at home using webinars. This is the first time for them. They're training normally. I have to go into a prison, get security checked by prison dogs, and then led up all these stairs into these like rooms of middle of nowhere, and then do the training with staff face to face. And then you normally would never see them in any other contact. But now it's going to be very different for them. So it's always about just making sure they're happy with it and checking in, and just hopefully it'll be a lot better than before. I don't know. I suppose we all have to live in it and evolve with it. And then you just never know how it could pan out, hopefully for the better for everybody.
Fantastic. Well, I don't know what the time is with you, Sonny, but I do have to shoot on.
Great. Yeah, it's we had about 45 minutes. I don't know where the time's flown. I think we've really explored. Well done. Thank you, Neil. Neil, I have to thank you because it's your baby, it's your concept, it's your kind of, you said, well, have you thought of, I would never have thought about this format. You came up with it. So thank you for that. And honestly, thank you for inviting me on this. And hopefully we'll have another one at some point.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think Loose Men has to continue.
We will be back. And so I'll try and figure it out and see how we can get this on IGTV and whatnot. So please forgive me, Neil, if it's all a bit of a thing, but we'll try and get it on there, try and get a video out of it. And then, people can give their comments or any ideas on things that, we are both, obviously, we're life coaches, we're certified, trained. We use modalities like NLP, life coaching, etc. So we look at things in different dimensions, but we can obviously look at it in that way, but also more generally, more broadly as well. Absolutely. So please.
We've had another comment. Great chat, guys. Thoroughly enjoyed listening. Well, I would like to turn around and say that I figured out how to respond, but big thanks.
Sorry, guys.
Big thanks, Abby.
Sorry, we're still new to this. We're learning. We're evolving, Neil. Yes.
This is it.
Loose Man is evolving.
I reckon we should have one of those. We should have one of those songs. With, what is it? If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands.
Clap your hands. That's an anchor. Let's do that. Let's do it. I'm sure we'll come up with a theme or something, or someone can come up with a song, or we can just sing it at the beginning or something. Why not? Let's get into the right mood.
That's it.
Okay, Neil, thank you very much, my friend. It's been a great pleasure. We'll chat later, yeah?
Yeah, take care. Thanks then, everyone.
And you, mate. Bye, buddy. Bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.